where YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and of course, the Occupy Democrats Network and the FM AM dial here on KSHP. And today on the show, I am going to be exposing MAGA far-right Republicans, not only proving that so many of them on the extreme far-right are racist, but they're celebrating their racism. Before I get to that, I want to remind all of you, if you're watching on the Occupy Democrats Network, please do me a favor. You're supporting this show. Click on that Occupy Democrats subscribe button there. It's only $5 a month. You're going to get extra content from yours truly, a chance to interact with me on a one-on-one basis. So click on that subscribe button, Occupy Democrats, and I appreciate your support. So we are going to be getting to this UFC fighter. I don't know if you've heard of him, but a UFC fighter, I don't even really want to mention his name, to be honest with you, but he is a champion, and he holds a press conference yesterday, and in that press conference, gay slurs, attacking a reporter, and the right is celebrating him for doing this to a reporter from Canada. We will get to that here in a couple minutes. I want to start out with Congresswoman Barbara Lee. Now, if you don't know who Congresswoman Barbara Lee is, Congresswoman Barbara Lee has been representing California's 12th district since 1998. She's the first African-American woman appointed to Democratic leadership. I'll give you a little bit more on her resume. But, let's just say she's an extremely educated black woman. She knows what it's like, sadly, to be the victim of racism. And she's doing an interview yesterday on CNN, and they're talking about Nikki Haley and her lack of really understanding of slavery, the Civil War, you name it. So a question by Caitlin Collins was asked to Congresswoman Barbara Lee, and Barbara Lee gave a personal story of a moment where she was the victim of racism in the House chambers. Have a listen to this.
I was walking from the House building on Capitol Hill to the Capitol, and a man, a white guy, stopped me and told me I could not get into the members' elevator. And, we have pens, and I was going to vote. And he blocked me from getting into the elevator and told me I was not a member of Congress and it was for members only. I said, sir, I'm a member of Congress. And I showed him my pen, and he said, whose pen did you steal? Now, this is an example of what personal racism is and how people...
Now, when I hear this story, the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh my God, this is horrible, extremely believable. Those on the far right are comparing Barbara Lee to Jussie Smollett, and I will be honest with you. The first time I heard the Jussie Smollett story, I thought it was real as well, because any decent human being that is not a bigot believes a victim. Obviously, in the Jussie Smollett situation, he was not a victim. In fact, what he did was criminal, and that's why he was charged, and that's why he's going to go to jail. Barbara Lee is a woman who has never been in trouble her entire life. She raised 2 sons on her own. Her father was a veteran of 2 wars. She broke so many racial barriers. This is a woman that has so much dignity and class, and I have so much respect for her. She received her Master's of Social Work from the University of California, Berkeley, a very educated woman, and here she is telling a personal story. So what do the MAGA right do? They start comparing her to Jussie Smollett, the despicable turd that is Matt Walsh. Anybody who knows who Matt Walsh is, he's a despicable bigot turd. I don't know why anybody would ever listen to Matt Walsh. He's boring, he's dry, he's a bigot, and he makes money off of attacking the LGBT community every day and transgenders. I don't know if something happened to Matt Walsh when he was a child, or he is just a bigot, or maybe both, and he just wants to make money off of his hatred and bigotry. But in speaking about Barbara Lee, here's what Matt Walsh said on social media today. He said, "This is, of course, an utterly fake, made-up BS story that only the stupidest among us will believe. No, Matt Walsh, the people that don't believe this are people like you, racist, stupid bigots. Matt Walsh is a human turd, and how or why he has a following is amazing to me. But if you're a racist bigot, you probably like Matt Walsh. If you attack people because their sexual orientation is different than yours, you probably like Matt Walsh. If you judge people because of the color of their skin, you probably like Matt Walsh, and you probably are going to be voting for Donald Trump. Matt Walsh is a human turd." Laura Ingraham, the evil racist witch that she is, said, quote, "Let's go to the videotape and expose this guy," with her sarcasm. Because like Matt Walsh, she takes every opportunity on her show to go after black people while supporting and defending the orange turd. Barbara Lee couldn't have been the victim of racism, but boy, that Donald Trump, he's the victim. Those 91 felony counts, the liable sexual abuse, oh no, he's innocent. But Barbara Lee, she's the one that's lying, not that Donald Trump who still says the 2020 election was stolen. Because Laura Ingraham is a racist, evil witch. That's what she is. When Nipsey Hussle died, if you recall, 2 weeks after that, she was attacking the lyrics of Nipsey Hussle. I guarantee you she didn't even know who Nipsey Hussle was. She's the idiot, the racist turd who, in regards to LeBron James, shut up and dribble. Do you remember those comments that Laura Ingraham made about LeBron James? Does she ever tell Ted Nugent to shut up and sing? Would she ever make that statement about another athlete who happens to be a conservative? No, she wouldn't do that because Laura Ingraham is an evil, racist witch. That's why. Richard Grinnell, who sadly is another right-wing turd who has a very large following, said on social media, pull the camera footage at the elevator. This story is very hard to believe. Well, for somebody that might be a Klansman or somebody who might be a racist bigot, I can understand why you would find it hard to believe that a middle-aged black woman who, pushed through so many racial barriers in her life, a very educated woman who never broke the law, stayed out of trouble, I can understand why somebody who's a middle-aged white man who's a racist might find it hard to believe that this woman, Barbara Lee, could have been the victim of racism. Yeah, really hard to believe. Not hard to believe somebody like me who actually understands that systemic racism exists. Richard Grinnell, you are a right-wing clown and you are a turd, just like Laura Ingraham and Matt Walsh. You're all in the same category. You're all right-wing racist turds is what you are, who bow down and wear the Donald Trump knee pads. That's right, to Cheeto Jesus. And then there's Colin Rugg. This guy is so despicable. If you follow this guy on social media, he is such a despicable right-wing buffoon. He says California Democrat Representative Barbara Lee claims she was the victim of a racist attack by a white man on Capitol Hill. Did he yell, "This is MAGA country too"? There you go. He's comparing her to Jussie Smollett. These MAGA Republicans are not only proving to you that they're racist, they're glad to show it to the world. They can't help themselves because Donald Trump gave them a pathway to be comfortable in their bigotry. And they're all in the same class. Alex Jones, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, you name it, Tucker Carlson V. They're all in the same category. They're white, they're racist, and they're bigots. And speaking of bigots, ladies and gentlemen, have you heard of Sean Strickland? Sean Strickland is a professional UFC fighter. And like some of the other fighters in the UFC, there are a select few of them that are not only MAGA supporters, but they are open with their bigotry, their racism, and their homophobia. And Sean Strickland is no exception to that because back in 2021, he made some despicable comments about homosexuality and women. So he's holding a press conference the other day. And while holding this press conference, he's wearing a shirt that says women belong in the kitchen and everybody should have their hand on a gun. Now, I do believe that Sean Strickland is a racist and a homophobe and he has a neo-Nazi past, but he's also doing this so he can get attention and more people can go see his fights. They're both, indefensible. So the 32-year-old has been open about his past as a neo-Nazi, and he said the movie American History X led him to worshiping the ideology of Nazism, for lack of a better term. This turd was kicked out of school for hate crimes. So this guy has a past. He's a bigot, and for whatever reason, the UFC allows these fighters and gives them a platform to be open with their hatred and bigotry. Because if you made these types of comments in the NBA or the NHL or Major League Baseball, you would get suspended. But for whatever reason, Dana White likes these kinds of people. I think that speaks volumes of who Dana White is. But then again, Dana White is also a huge MAGA supporter. So I want to play you this audio from this despicable human being, Sean Strickland. And it's important that I play this for you because, again, many people on the far right are condoning this type of language. They're not only condoning it, but they're celebrating it. And I have some of the names of the people that are. So this is UFC fighter and open neo-Nazi Sean Strickland holding a press conference the other day when a reporter from Canada asked him a question about some of his statements in the past on people who are gay. Have a listen to this exchange.
We've got a pretty supportive gay and lesbian community in this city. I did want to ask you about something you wrote a couple of years ago. You said, if I had a gay son, I would think I'd...
Oh, look, another reason I'm saying it in the swamp, you guys, a swamp.
You become a champion, you become a star, and some would say...
Let me ask you something. Are you gay?
I had the chance to interact with a more diverse...
Are you gay?
Could I get an answer?
Well, I'm asking, this is a part of, are you a gay man?
I'm an ally of the community.
Okay. If you had a son and he was like, you had a son, he was gay, you'd be like, oh man, you don't want a grandkid?
No problem with it.
Oh man, well, dude, you're a weak man, dude. You're part of the problem. You elected Justin Trudeau. Like, when he sees the bank accounts, like, you're just pathetic.
You're not an ally. You're not an effing man if you're an ally of the gay community. You're not a man if you're gay. These are the words of Sean Strickland, and for whatever reason, the UFC allows him to spew this bigotry and this hatred. The conversation continues. Have a listen to this.
You said about the trans community. You said this past October when they announced the Bud Light sponsorship that you'd go so hard on Bud Light in your next fight, they'll have to accept me or denounce me when they know what, and will know what they stand for.
This guy's like that. This Canadian's not that Canadian.
Are you still going to use your fight time to kind of speak on that?
Here's the thing about Bud Light. 10 years ago, to be trans was a mental illness. And now all of a sudden, people like you have weaseled your way in the world. You are an infection. You are the definition of weakness. Everything that is wrong with the world is because of you.
So according to Sean Strickland, if you support the gay community, or if you're gay, or if you support the trans community, or you're trans, you're an infection, and it shows weakness. Now, obviously, if you're very ignorant, full of hate, if you're a bigot, or in this case, Sean Strickland, who's a Nazi, then you're going to think this way. But what's even more daunting is that the UFC allows this type of language, and they'll say, oh, freedom of speech. Well, ladies and gentlemen, freedom of speech pertains to the government. Why is it so many people on the right don't know what freedom of speech is or what it pertains to? There are consequences for your words. Freedom of speech pertains to the government, meaning if you go on a sidewalk and say, I hate gay people, the government can't do anything about it. However, your employer can. People can that know you because your words have consequences, but apparently there are no consequences in the UFC. You can get up there in front of a mic and say, I hate black people, I hate gay people, I hate Jews, and Dana White will allow it to happen. The UFC should be ashamed of themselves. ESPN immediately should be calling out this hate speech, and it's awful, it's dangerous. And Sean Strickland is a despicable human being. I mean, I'm speaking the obvious here, right? Sean Strickland is a despicable neo-Nazi turd that should be called out. But you see, Dana White won't do that. Is it a shocker that Donald Trump supports the UFC? I guarantee you Donald Trump supports this kind of language. I guarantee you so many of his Republican friends behind closed doors love this guy. By the way, not everybody behind closed doors is celebrating this guy in his statement, Sean Strickland. Clay Travis, who took the place of the cancer himself, Rush Limbaugh. And again, Clay Travis, another despicable human being who spreads bigotry, propaganda, and hatred on the radio every single day. So what did Clay Travis say? Any decent human being, right, Republican or Democrat, any decent human being that hears these statements from Sean Strickland would say, gosh, that's awful. Those are terrible statements. That's homophobic. We should treat everybody with respect. Terrible statements that he made, bigotry, hatred. Any decent, normal human being that isn't a homophobe or a bigot would make those claims. I think we all could agree on that, right? Well, here's what the despicable turd, the right-wing buffoon, Clay Travis said on social media yesterday. And by the way, he also posted this audio gloating about it. Said, quote, UFC fighters not woke. Holy crap. Fighters, boxing, and MMA are legit the only athletes who say exactly what they think and don't care how anyone reacts. And the fans love them for it. Clay Travis is not only condoning, but endorsing hatred and bigotry. If you're the company that employs Clay Travis, how does that represent your brand? I guess these are some of your listeners who are loyal listeners of Clay Travis, who were loyal listeners of Rush Limbaugh. Bigots. Why is it that so many on the far right condone this sort of language? Attacking the trans community, attacking the LGBT community. Why? And Clay Travis is allowed to be on the air. If you sponsor Clay Travis's show, how do you look in the mirror? You're paying a man who spreads bigotry and hatred. Maybe you want that sort of thing. I don't know. Matt Walsh, again, the bigot himself, went on social media in regards to this Sean Strickland homophobic rant and said, Sean Strickland for White House Press Secretary 2024. I want you to think about that for a second. A man who attacks the LGBT community whenever he gets a microphone, in Sean Strickland, a man who talks down to people who might be trans or might be gay, a man who calls them weak and infections to this country, just because their sexuality might be different than yours. And Matt Walsh thinks that this guy should be the White House Press Secretary. Can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. Alex Jones said Trump to pick UFC champion Sean Strickland for vice president. That's right. We shouldn't be surprised that Alex Jones would say something like that. But Alex Jones isn't joking. He's speaking the truth. That's what so many of these people on the far right want. They want a bigot underneath a bigot. Yes, Donald Trump is a bigot. And they want somebody underneath him that shares his same values of bigotry, attacking the LGBT community, attacking transgenders. They're doing it now open. They're open about their bigotry. They're open about their homophobia. They want you to know because they know the MAGA base loves this sort of stuff, loves it. And of course, there's, again, Colin Rugg, who said UFC champ Sean Strickland tells Canadian journalist to go F himself after the journalist tried to ask a gotcha question. So according to Colin Rugg, again, another right-wing buffoon, it was a gotcha question to ask him about a statement he made about the gay community back in 2021. That's not a gotcha question. It's called holding somebody accountable, you stupid idiot. There's nothing gotcha about that. Was it a gotcha question when they asked Nikki Haley about the Civil War? What is wrong with these people? There's nothing gotcha about that. It's not a gotcha question. In 2021, this fighter made horrible statements about the gay community. By the way, while he's wearing a shirt that says women should be in the kitchen. He's wearing a shirt that says women should be in the kitchen. So his wife, his daughters, they should all be in the kitchen. And Alex Jones thinks that this person should be the vice president. Matt Walsh says that this person should be the White House press secretary. They're not afraid to show their bigotry. They're not afraid to show how they endorse diminishing women. They're not even keeping it quiet anymore. They're just all there out in the open. Why is that? Aren't you angry about this? Doesn't it disgust you? It disgusts me. It disgusts me that a wonderful woman, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who has dedicated her entire life to public service, broken so many racial barriers, an educated woman, a good woman, tells a story about how she was the victim of racism and all the right-wing, far-right MAGA turds out there are now comparing her to Jussie Smollett. I mean, how despicable can you be? We have a UFC fighter, sadly, with a large platform, who, in an open forum in a press conference, is calling people an infection and weak because they might be gay. And not only does Dana White allow it and the UFC allow it, but it's being championed by those on the far right. What do you think about that? Number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-221-7283. And again, that number, 702-221-SAVE, 702-221-7283. Why is it that these MAGA Republicans, so many of them, are not only, I guess you could use the term, endorsing bigotry, but defending it? Why is that? It's not coming from the left. It's coming from the right. And these are MAGA Republicans. Make no mistake about it. Matt Walsh, Alex Jones, Colin Rugg, These are MAGA Republicans. Clay Travis. They are despicable human beings. Laura Ingraham, the evil racist witch that she is. They are despicable human beings. And there's really no excuse for this type of language ever. It's one thing if you do it on a public sidewalk, the government can't get involved. That's what free speech is all about. But as the UFC and Dana White, how can you allow this type of language? If I spoke like this in an office or whatever job you have, as a teacher, there, you can be a construction worker and you're talking to your fellow employees like this. If you're caught doing something like that in most jobs in this country, you would be fired on the spot. Why is it that it's endorsed by so many on the far right? I don't understand that. Again, the number if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. Again, 702-221-SAVE is the number to call. Let's go to Carl first. Number to call. Carl is first up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Carl.
Hey, Brian. Listen, you remember the other day I called you and I said watching him in his psychological condition is breaking up in a million pieces. Well, when he was at the trial, which he didn't have to be really, for the woman he was convicted of sexual assault, basically. And I was watching him closely, and I could see him even disintegrating more and more. He started beating his hands on the desk like a child. And after the whole thing, when he went out of the court, he held his hands up to the press, and you can see all the blood over his hands from where he cut himself from hitting the table. He's breaking up mentally and really quick, very quickly.
What do you think about some of these people on the far right that are defending bigotry? They're endorsing bigotry. These are people with national platforms like Clay Travis and Matt Walsh and Alex Jones. And whether it's a UFC fighter that's, calling people that are gay an infection and weak people, or it's Barbara Lee telling a story about how she was the victim of racism, and everybody on the MAGA extreme right seems to be comparing her to Jussie Smollett. What do you make, and what would you call these people?
Well, I'll use one 5-letter word to tell you what I think. Money.
Yeah.
They're doing it basically for money.
Yeah.
If there was no money in it at all, they wouldn't be doing it. But they're getting the backing of all Trump supporters by doing this. If they couldn't get any backing or any fans or any donations or any money coming in, they wouldn't do it at all.
No, you're right. I think, Carl, I appreciate the call, and you're probably right. I think for a lot of these people like Clay Travis and Matt Walsh, Alex Jones, Colin Rugg, these types of despicable turds, Laura Ingraham, to go after a black woman, to call her a liar, to endorse bigotry and hatred and homophobia. Yeah, you're probably right, Carl. They're doing it for money. What does that make them? It's absolutely despicable. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. Again, 702-221-SAVE if you'd like to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Julie. Julie's next on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Julie.
Hello, here, MAGA resident, as you call me. Okay, Brian, are you familiar with the CRT and origin, it's Marxist origin, right? You know that?
You're asking me if I'm familiar with critical race theory? Is that what you're asking me?
Yes, are you familiar with the origin of the CRT?
I'm familiar.
Marxist.
I'm familiar with the fact that it's something that the right likes to talk about when in our high schools and elementary schools it's not being treated, not being taught. Maybe there's a few college professors in this country teaching critical race theory, but I don't know what that has to do with the topic at hand, where we're talking about a UFC fighter that has spread bigotry and hatred. Let me ask you a question, Julie. Now you asked me a question. Now let me ask you. By the way, free speech pertains to government. There are consequences for your words, as I've said.
No.
Yes. Freedom of speech pertains. Julie, do you not understand what freedom of speech is? Because we can't have a conversation. Okay, freedom of speech pertains to the government. A private business that you work for can fire you if they don't like your language. What part of that do you not understand?
It does not belong to the government.
I just said that. Freedom of speech pertains to the government, meaning the government can't interfere. We agree. But a private business could fire you if you say something that is offensive. Can we agree on that at least?
I have never heard anyone to be fired in this country for expressing.
Okay,
his
then
work.
you have absolutely.
Unless,
then you are living.
unless-
Then Julie, then you're
let-
living
let-
under a
let me
rock.
finish.
You're
Let
li- no.
me unless the company is a radical lefty company.
Okay,
that
let me
does
ask
not
you a
allow
question,
freedom of
Julie.
speech.
Let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
If you run a
Go ahead.
company made up of white people and black people, and in your company a white person starts calling black people the N-word, what would you do about that? Let's just say you were the CEO. What would you do about that? What would you do?
I don't have to intervene because
So you
that's
want to
freedom
intervene.
of
Okay,
speech.
put her down. So according to Julie, in the workplace, if a white person or white people called black people within the business the N-word, Julie wouldn't intervene. She would just let it happen. Julie, are you really that despicable?
If they are arguing and breaking the environment, then I will.
So, Julie, let me ask you a
pursue-
question. Do you think that if a white person, hypothetically, called one of your employees the N-word every day, do you think that might hurt the environment of the workplace? Yes or no? I'm asking you, yes or no?
Do you know that in Cuba?
Don't ask me a question with. I asked you a question. I'm going to repeat it again, Julie. If a white person called somebody the N-word constantly, now one time too much, they should be fired. But Julie, you said you wouldn't intervene. Julie, if a white person starts calling black people that work for you the N-word, do you think that might hurt the workplace a little bit and it might not represent your company well? Can you please answer that question?
If you call me nigger, I wouldn't.
Okay, have a nice day, Julie. The fact that you'd even say that word on the airwaves leads me to believe you're very comfortable in saying that word, and have a nice day. That word will not be allowed on this radio show. And Julie, quite frankly, you're despicable. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Again, 702-221-7283. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the MAGA supporters. If they own a company, according to Julie, and somebody, a white person in this case, calls a black person the N-word in the workplace, Julie said she wouldn't intervene. Can you possibly be any dumber? 702-221-7283. Donald Trump's base, everybody. 702-221-SAVE is the number to call. Let's go to Arlene is next on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Arlene.
Good afternoon, Brian. Yeah, I would have hung up on her. The thing is that I want to go back a little bit to the UFC because
Sure.
I don't think it's only about money. That they're trying to get money and they're trying to get these donations for the MAGA group and all of that.
Sure.
I truly believe it's because they are racist and we're allowing, not us but we're allowing them to say,
Yeah.
oh, that guy's a this.
Right.
That guy's a this, she's a whatever. Because we're allowing it, as this person just told you, oh, if somebody said the N-word at work, that's fine with me. No,
Right.
it's not fine. And we have to put a stop to it.
I agree.
We have to say it's not okay. The other thing, I mean, when we speak about, for example, it's very hurtful because gays, if you're gay, you don't just come out of the closet and say, well, today I want to be gay, and yet people are going to hang you on the fence.
You make a good point. There are
that,
so many stupid people in this country that believe that being gay is just a choice. That somehow, if you're 20 years old or 10 years old or 30 years old or 50 years old, that you just wake up one day liking women your whole life, attracted to women, and one day you just wake up and say, hey, you know what? I think I like those guys. These people are so stupid, and they're so brainwashed. They're so ignorant and in their bigotry and their racism, and it is not only being condoned, but it is being celebrated by the far right, and I am sick of these people.
And that is the whole thing. That is the whole thing.
Yeah.
That these, if you will, white people, and some of them are not even, I mean, look at Nikki Haley, and now the senator from Carolina is going to back Trump.
Right.
And he hasn't said one good thing about blacks or Latinos or Asians.
You're right. And I'm going to tell you, I'm also very disappointed locally in the governor in the great state of Nevada, Joe Lombardo. I've been saying
Yep.
this about Joe Lombardo for years. He is a MAGA Republican, even though he doesn't show it as much as others. And he just recently endorsed Donald Trump. And that says all you need to know about Joe Lombardo. I've had it with him, and I've had it with these people that continue to endorse a man who is a bigot, who is a racist. I've had it. I've had it with their excuses. Oh, I like his policies. Joe Biden's too old. I've had it. I've had it with these people.
Right.
I've had it.
Right.
There is no legitimate reason in my mind how you could still forget about 2016. I get it. I'll even give you a pass for 2020. In 2024, that you still sit there and you support Donald Trump, who is a threat to our democracy, facing 91 felony counts, who incited January 6th, who is a liable rapist. And there are people in this country, a large percentage of them, that hate Joe Biden so much, and they hate Democrats so much, that they can support a liable rapist. I've had it with these people. I've had it. I've had it with them.
Well, we need to tell them to, like, if it's your neighbor who is, I'm voting for Trump because he was the best. We need to call them out. We need to call these people out.
It starts with a conversation, and if they support Trump, I try to find out why. I try to pick their brain a little bit.
Right.
If they could, if they could admit that Trump lost in 2020, and if they could admit that Donald Trump is not a good dude, then I can have a conversation with them, and we can disagree on things and have a respectful conversation. But if they're going to but if they're going to give me the nonsense that Trump won in 2020, make America great again, Joe Biden is a pedophile, you can't talk to these people. They're so brainwashed and they're so stupid. They're some of the dumbest people America has to offer. The dumbest people.
I just want to say one thing, and then I'll let you go for today.
Sure.
But back to that. You can say anything you want, yell fire in a crowded school or church or whatever. If that was true, then Kaepernick would still be in the NFL.
Yeah.
You could say whatever you want.
That's true.
He didn't say anything. He kneeled.
Yeah, he did.
Kneeling.
I can tell you this, though. If Colin Kaepernick was still good enough to be a starting quarterback, he probably would have stayed in the NFL.
Well, that's a different story.
Right. But you're right. Hey, listen, it's good to hear from you. I appreciate the phone call, okay? Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too. Have a great weekend. The number to call if you'd like to be a part of the conversation is 702-221-7283. And again, 702-221-7283 is the number to call. All right, who are we going to next here? Let's go to Obi, who's next up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Obi.
How you doing, buddy?
What's up, Obi?
Okay, listen, I'm going to be fast on this. You call her by her name, despicable human being. The next time she calls, even if it's not a subject that she's talking, the subject of the day, you ask her if she would like to be called Speak. That's what I have to say.
Can I say this, Obi?
Obi, what does
it say about a human being? If I give a hypothetical and I say, if you were the CEO of a company or you were the owner of a small business, whatever, and you had two employees, one was white, one was black, and the white employee got into arguments with the black employee, called them the N-word constantly, what would you do? And the response I get...
I fired him immediately.
Of course you would. But what would you say about the person whose response is, I wouldn't intervene? What would you call that person?
A coward.
Racist, a coward, a bigot. Welcome
exactly, a bigot, everything. Yeah. Everything that you're saying.
Welcome to the MAGA base.
You call her by her name.
Yeah, welcome to the MAGA base. That's the MAGA base. I bet you if you asked extreme right-wing Republican, MAGA Republicans, and you asked them that same question, they would answer probably the same way Julie would answer. They would probably say, oh, you know what, I wouldn't intervene. Why? Because they condone it. Because they endorse it. Just like the people that endorse this UFC fighter with his bigotry and hatred. Just like the people that are going after Barbara Lee, comparing it to Jussie Smollett. They're all the same, Obi. They're all the same.
You want to know, Brian?
Yeah.
I did it until Donald Trump came along. We didn't know in this country how many people where, they came from under the rock that feel that way.
Yeah.
It's a shame. It's sad. It's a sad thing that people could live with those kind of feelings.
It really is sad.
Okay,
I wasn't raised.
Thank
you, Obi. I appreciate the call. I wasn't raised that way. And I'm almost speechless. Because when I hear a white person use the N-word, I'm embarrassed that that person is white and that I'm white. I'm almost at a loss of words. That if you own a company and you have an employee call somebody the N-word, you wouldn't intervene? How do you even respond to that? This is the MAGA base. And then we wonder why the Julies of the world are supporting Donald Trump. We wonder why so many on the far right, like the Clay Travises and the Matt Walshes, condone and endorse a UFC fighter with his bigotry and hatred in real time. We wonder why these same people go after Barbara Lee, a wonderful, educated woman who's been in public service for almost 50 years. An educated woman who said, yeah, I was the victim of racism. Here's what happened. And then people want to compare her to Jussie Smollett and call her a liar. How do you deal with these people? How do you deal with this bigotry? Besides calling it out, I don't know what else you can do. 702-221-7283 if you would like to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Lori, who's next up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Lori.
Hi.
Hi, Lori.
Calm down, one. Please calm down. I was calling about Julie. I guess after her comment, we can actually all see why she didn't do really well with the blacks at the post office.
Yeah, that's a good point. So those of you that are unaware, Julie had called.
Julie
had called in.
Is there.
Yeah, let me just.
You know that mentality is there. You know the people that are going to use that word and what people that won't use that word.
For people that don't know what you're talking about, Julie called in this week and she said she was at the post office and she claimed that some black people were not very nice to her. Boy, I wonder why that is. She seems to think calling people the N-word is totally okay.
And I was going to call in today and mention that, well, they're probably not nice to her because here she is, an immigrant, just walked into the country, per her words.
Yeah.
And she got a job at the post office.
Right.
That's an illustrious job. Those lists are miles long for people wanting to get jobs.
Right.
So she took the job of a black American born in this country. And she doesn't understand that. She doesn't understand
I think
her
there's
as an immigrant took a job away from a born American. Everybody is going to be a little annoyed and knows how to join about her working there.
I think there's probably a lot that she doesn't understand, and I think there's a lot that a lot of middle America, white middle America, doesn't understand, right? I mean, you have people, when you have somebody like Barbara Lee, who I think most people would agree, Republican or Democrat, Barbara Lee, decent human being, a champion for civil rights movement, someone who's been in public service for 50 years, never got in trouble with the law, but yet so many middle-aged white men and women, by the way, that are MAGA cult supporters, immediately go to, oh, you know what? She's just like Jussie Smollett. This story doesn't seem real. It must be a lie. This could have never happened. They don't know what racism is, and many of them are racist themselves.
Correct.
They are so complicit, and they don't know what it's like to be a minority in this country and be the victim of racism. They think actually they're the victims. They think being white in this country is a victim. I mean, they're so complicit. It's so disgusting to me, and I don't even know what to do.
And to say there's no systematic racism in this country, and I've only lived in this country, I imagine she probably came in under Obama because that's when the Cuban lockdown was sort of lifted by Obama.
Right.
So she's only been in this country maybe 20 years. Mm-hmm. So how does she know what we saw back in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s? You know,
a lot of these people say,
no clue of what
a lot of these people will say
was like.
Racism can't exist because we gave you Barack Obama. So, you know, racism can't exist in this country. These people, these people are so stupid. They're so dumb as a rock. And, you know, really, for the most part, that's what racism is, and that's what racists are. They're ignorant people. Racism is ignorance. It's prejudging people because they don't look like you or because maybe their sexuality is different than yours. These are very ignorant people. They're dumb people. And when you're stupid, you can't think logically. And when you can't think logically, you generalize that all black people are like this or gay people are like this. That's what these people do.
Yep.
You know, and it's sad.
And as far as your original question, yes, I would absolutely fire anybody in my employ that used a racial slur, a sexual slur. I'm not even going to say the word.
Yeah.
About anything gay or transsexual, anything along that line.
But you know
they
what?
Would be out the door before they got their second breath.
Amen. I would do the same thing. But you know what some of these dumb MAGA Republicans do? Oh, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. They're so stupid. They don't understand that doesn't pertain to private business.
And this USF thing, I mean, how many times have all those people been hit in the head?
Right.
But
right.
It's like the first guys, the Carl said, it's a money thing with them. But that's how they really thought. And unfortunately, Trump, for some reason, lifted all the rocks they were living under and let it all come out and
You're right.
public free speech.
All I can do is
the president could say shit like that. Sorry.
That's okay. Listen, all we can do is call it out every day and call out these people every day. And I promise you, I won't stop doing that. And I appreciate the call. Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Bye-bye. 702-221-7283. I'm opening up the phone lines here, and I'm asking you, if you're just joining us, here's what we've been talking about. Let me just give you a quick review here. Representative Barbara Lee, Democrat, she's been in office for a while. She broke a lot of racial barriers, a wonderful woman. And she told a story on CNN yesterday about how she was the victim of racism. The story basically about a white person in an elevator, and that white person, she said she couldn't be there. She said, well, wait a second, I'm a member of Congress. He was very insulting and made racist innuendos to her. And the MAGA right, those with platforms like the Matt Walshes, right, and the Clay Travises and the Laura Ingrams, they're claiming that she's a liar. They don't believe her story, and they're comparing her to Jussie Smollett. And while all this is going on, the MAGA right is also endorsing and condoning Sean Strickland, a UFC fighter who called gay people an infection and weak people in a press conference yesterday. And for whatever reason, those on the far right, Alex Jones included, Colin Rugg, and those are saying this Sean Strickland, who made these despicable comments, should be the next vice president. Donald Trump should pick him as vice president. They're not even trying to hide their racism and their bigotry, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what we're taking calls on today, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the show, 702-221-SAVE. Let's go to Gary. Gary is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Gary.
Hey, Brian, thanks for filling me in on everything, because it's true. I only got back a few minutes ago from my anger management class. Thank God another one is over. Hey, God, he created everybody, they say, in his own image. And I'm not sure, I don't know where all this hatred's coming from.
The far right. The far right. That's where it's coming from.
Well, I say that it's a shame that the black people have been, gypped as far as the appearance looks. But you shouldn't judge a person just because, they're the least attractive of all us human beings.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Too much hatred.
What do you mean least attractive? What do you mean by that?
Well, it's a fact to most people. It's apparent, unless you're totally brainwashed, that black people have been shortchanged. I don't know why God did that.
Okay,
Maybe
so
there's
when
a
you
reason.
say
He has a reason.
when you say least attractive, you're not talking about physical attributes that you believe a certain race is least not as attractive as another. You're just saying what the bigots and some of the racists believe. Is that what I'm getting from you? I just want to understand.
I don't know what they believe. Lately, I talk to you more than anyone else.
I was just trying to understand what you meant by least attractive, because when I look at somebody black and somebody white, I don't look at a black person and say, oh, you're not as attractive as that person who's white. I don't think like that. I do think that about an orange man. By the way, I do want to bring this up, Gary. You can tell me what you think about this. Melania Trump's mother was laid to rest today, right? Thoughts and prayers to her family. Donald Trump is walking into the car with Melania Trump. They share a few words, and Donald Trump is seeing if she wants to ride with him, and she waves him off. She didn't even want to be driving in the limo in the same car as Donald Trump. Sounds like a very loving relationship. I mean, I just wanted to share that with you. The video is circulating on social media, shows you what a loving relationship. Just hypothetically speaking, if it was Barack Obama's parent or Michelle Obama's parent, do you think they would drive in separate limos in the funeral? I think not, because that's what
I'm not trying to change the subject or not answer your question, but I'm just as worried if he loses the election or if he wins it. Either way, I think we're in a lot of trouble, and we're in very, very turbulent
well, Gary,
times.
I think we're in a lot more trouble if he wins the election. I'll leave it at that, Gary, and I hope you have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. I appreciate the call, Gary. 702-221-7283. All right, so here's what we are going to do. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Ron DeSantis lying in real time. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. DeSantis back at it again in Maine. This time, he's spreading pure propaganda and lies about the vaccines. He's done it before, and now he's doing it again, and we'll play that for you coming up next. Number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. That number again, 702-221-SAVE. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back in 90 seconds. You are listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP and on the Occupy Democrats Network. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Friday. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. You could be watching on YouTube, my TikTok. If you're wondering what that link is to my YouTube page, it's at PTL Radio Show. Same thing with TikTok, X, where I get into it with some listeners all the time. And, of course, the Occupy Democrats Network. We're on the FM AM dial in Las Vegas. And if you're on the Occupy Democrats Network and you're watching or tuning in, do us a favor and click on that subscription button It's only $5 a month. You support this show, and you get some extra content from yours truly. And we appreciate your support. If you're just joining us, you've missed a lot, but that's okay. Democrat Congresswoman Barbara Lee told a story on CNN yesterday about how she was the victim of racism. And it happened in the House chambers, so to speak, at least in an elevator where she claimed that a white man told her she couldn't be in the elevator. She said she was a congresswoman, and he made some incendiary comments to her. And she tells the story on CNN, and now everybody on, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of MAGA Republicans on the far right that sadly have platforms like the Clay Travises of the world and the Matt Walshes of the world and the Alex Jones and Colin Rugg and evil racist witch Laura Ingraham, these types of people, all these types of people are saying that she's just like Jussie Smollett. She's a liar. And meanwhile, we have this UFC fighter, this neo-Nazi named Sean Strickland, who is saying if you're gay, you're an infection, you're weak, you're not a man. And people on the far right are now condoning him, saying he should be the next vice president under Donald Trump. Number to call, 702-221-7283. We're going to get to Ron DeSantis here in a moment. We'll take a few more calls. Again, that number, 702-221-7283. Let's go to CJ, who's next up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, CJ.
Hello.
What's up, CJ? What's on your mind?
I saw Donald Trump's problems back in 2015. I was speaking to Sunshine here, and her name, that's all I knew, in Florida, and I was telling her about what he was going to do to the environment and et cetera. And she was an Indian who went up to protest the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2017, I spoke in front of about 150 people, telling them that Donald Trump was elected, yes, but he was not going to give up the presidency when he lost it. He was going to try to be a dictator. And I even brought bumper stickers saying, you know, reelect Baron von Orange Glow and the White Weasel. I handed them out. Few people took them, you know, and I really deem that the danger is if he gets back in office.
Well, you live in Florida, right? Is that what you said, sir?
Yeah.
How is it possible that Ron DeSantis is the governor there and gets elected and reelected? How is that possible? How is it possible that a man who treats migrants like political pawns? He treats human beings to own the libs and ships people on a plane to Martha's Vineyard, lying to them with these brochures. You know, what he did with Disney. How could anybody respect this man? I guess unless you're a MAGA Republican. I don't know what else to say.
I'm not a MAGA Republican, and I believe that, right, Ron DeSantis is only interested in power, and he's picking on the lowest people that he can.
Yeah.
So it makes him look strong.
Yeah, I think you're right, CJ. I do appreciate your call, and I just don't understand how people can vote in people like Lauren Boebert, you know, people like Ted Cruz, Ron DeSantis, Jim Jordan. I mean, I don't get it. And I'm glad that Kari Lake didn't win the governorship of Arizona, thank God. But, you know, Kari Lake was asked by Piers Morgan yesterday the question, which I think is a very fair one. What happens if Donald Trump goes to prison? I mean, her response is just unbelievable. It's mesmerizing. So I want you to have a listen to this exchange between Piers Morgan and Kari Lake because it's really unbelievable.
They lied to us about the COVID shots. Remember?
Hold on. We got the wrong clip there. Let's go to the clip before, and that is Piers Morgan having a conversation with Kari Lake. Have a listen to this.
What if he's in prison I mean, genuine question. He's facing 91 criminal charges. What if he's convicted of one or some of those charges and actually gets put into a prison cell? I mean, it could happen. Under the Constitution, he would still be able to run the country, but would that be a good thing?
We've seen the witch hunts. They've been going on since President Trump had the courage to step into the political arena. There's been one witch hunt after the next, and most of it fueled by the media, sadly. And even if he was sitting in Alcatraz, the people will vote for him because they know that he is going to put America first.
Okay, so first of all, the people didn't vote for him in 2020. Joe Biden won the 2020 election, you stupid woman, you. Secondly, it didn't take courage, as you said, for Donald Trump to put his name in the hat to try to become the next president of the United States. This was all about Donald Trump. It didn't take any courage, like you said, you stupid wingbat. The reason why Donald Trump put his name in the hat is because he wanted to expand his brand. He didn't expect that he would win in 2016. He wanted to expand his brand. He thought it would be good for Donald Trump. It didn't take any courage. He's a triple draft-dodging idiot. There's not a sense of courage in that man's entire body. And Kari Lake, you're an imbecile. And, you know, she's such a cultist. And, you know, she says that all the legal problems that Donald Trump is facing is fueled by the media. No, it's fueled by Donald Trump. These are his own actions. He put himself in this position, you idiot. Kari Lake is such a fool. And I'm going to tell you something. If she somehow becomes a senator, it speaks volumes of how stupid this country is. I hope she doesn't. Now, I mentioned I would play you a little bit of audio from Ron DeSantis as well, because he's in Maine making the rounds, right? He's in Maine spreading more right-wing propaganda. And Ron DeSantis started talking about COVID again. And we all know Ron DeSantis. You remember the video of him telling a child to take that stupid mask off. Ron DeSantis is still spreading lies about the vaccine. He's still spreading lies about COVID. Listen to what he had to say in Maine the other day about COVID vaccinations. Have a listen to this.
They lied to us about the COVID shots. Remember, they said if you take a COVID shot, you will not get COVID. How true was that? Not at all. Now, every booster you take, you're more likely to get COVID as a result of it.
No, Mr. DeSantis, that is a blatant lie and a spew of medical misinformation that you might have gotten from the demon sperm doctor. Ron DeSantis, who's running for president of the United States, a governor of a state, said that every booster you take, you're more likely to get COVID. That is a lie. That has been debunked. It has been fact-checked time and time again, and yet these right-wing turds continue to spread medical misinformation. How is that possible? How is he allowed to just say that without being questioned on it while all these idiot Republicans that are on the stage with him are nodding their head? Yep. Oh, yeah. Yep. 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 No. That's completely false, Mr. DeSantis. And you've been spreading medical misinformation for quite some time now, and it's still being spread. This was a global pandemic and a vaccine that so many MAGA Republicans want to give all the credit to Donald Trump for, yet they call the vaccines poison. If that's the irony of that, is unbelievable. Mistakes were made. No doctor is perfect. And the entire world was not ready for this global pandemic. I think that's a very fair and accurate thing to say. I do put a little bit of that responsibility on Donald Trump because when COVID hit this country, Donald Trump was president of the United States. 15 cases down to 0. It's going to be gone by Easter. But none of these Republicans will put any responsibility on Donald Trump. They want to blame Joe Biden for everything. There's no question mistakes were made. But I'm going to speak in very general terms here. Now, the MAGA people out there will probably not understand this. So I'm going to try to speak very slowly so you MAGA fans out there, just for you so you can understand. No vaccine is perfect. No doctor has ever said, no infectious disease doctor has ever said that any vaccine would have 0 side effects. If you claim that, then you're a liar. Every vaccine out there, there's a chance of side effects, even death. More than half the world has taken the COVID vaccinations and at least one booster. If you're claiming that millions of people are dying from the vaccinations, you're a liar. That's medical misinformation. Have there been some side effects? Sure. As I just stated, see statement number 1. No vaccine is perfect. The vaccines have saved millions of lives. No. The vaccines don't stop you from getting COVID. No. The vaccines don't stop you from giving it to other people. And I've never made those statements on the air or off the air because I listened to my personal doctors. I was in the hospital for COVID several years ago. However, what the vaccines are very effective on, and you could look at literally hundreds and hundreds of studies that prove this. Don't give me one random study out in Europe. I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds of studies that were done in this country. What the vaccines have been proven to be effective in is lowering your risk of having to go to the ICU, having serious complications from COVID, and dying. You are at least 10 times more likely to not go into the ICU and die if you are vaccinated. That cannot be argued. It is a fact. Ask any infectious disease doctor. Notice how I said, don't ask an eye doctor that's a right-winger. Don't ask Rand Paul. Ask an infectious disease doctor and those that are working in the front lines in ICU units, and they will talk to you about the vaccines. Oh, yeah, and by the way, if the vaccines were poison, like so many idiots on the right would lead you to believe, then why is it almost 9 out of every 10 people in the medical field, nurses, doctors, surgeons, why are 9 out of 10 vaccinated if, in fact, the vaccines were poison? Don't you think if that was the case, many of these people in the medical field probably wouldn't be getting vaccinated? But I know that might be hard for some of you MAGA Trumpers to try to understand. But yet there are people out there like Ron DeSantis. There are people out there like Ron DeSantis that continue to spread medical misinformation. And it is a blatant lie. Apparently, by the way, Nikki Haley has just officially been banned from the Daily Mail from all of her future campaign events following a publication claiming that Haley cheated on her husband, Michael. I don't know if that's true or not. I really don't care too much about that as much as some of the other things that Nikki Haley has said, but I do find that quite interesting. And as far as Nikki Haley goes, as I've said before, and I'll say again, her political career is over. There is absolutely no chance that Donald Trump is going to pick her as his VP. It could be Byron Donalds. It could be Sarah Huckabee Sanders. There's a lot of different people that Donald Trump could pick. He claims he already knows who his vice president is going to be. It's going to be a MAGA Republican who's going to be loyal to him, but somebody who is not going to overshadow him. And quite frankly, I don't care who he chooses. It would be impossible for me to ever vote for Cheeto Jesus. Impossible. I don't care who the other candidate is. Impossible. Why is it that there are so many people on the MAGA right that still spew medical misinformation? Why is it that there are so many people on the far right that still are not afraid to show their bigotry, to show their racism, to show their sexism in real time? And they endorse people who spread bigotry and hatred. They endorse them. Should it be a shocker that Donald Trump invited Kanye West to the White House multiple times? Should it be a shocker that Donald Trump had dinner with Kanye West and Fuentes, a known neo-Nazi? Number to call, 702-221-7283. And again, that number if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Patrick, who is next up on Pushing the Limits. Patrick, go ahead.
Yeah, Brian, if everything that you were saying was true, then the vaccination rates of boosters and everything else would be much higher than it is. Nobody's taking the shots anymore.
Okay, I'll answer that. I'll respond to that. The reason why is we're not losing 4,000 to 5,000 people a day. The reason why is the COVID strand that is out today is nowhere near as serious as it was a few.
Agreed.
Okay, so there's your answer. So what are you talking about? That's why people aren't getting boosted.
They're still recommending boosters, are they not?
You just made the claim of, or made the case, or tried to, of why people aren't getting boosted as much as they were. And I just answered what you just said by stating a fact, which is COVID is nowhere near as rampant as it was even a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's not as serious. People aren't dying
never was.
No,
Never
it's
was.
not. It's not as serious now. What are you talking about? You just admitted that I was right.
I agree. I never took a shot. I'm not worried about COVID.
I'm not asking
about COVID.
I'm not asking about you personally. You made a statement.
It was a glorified
Hold on.
flu.
You made excuse me. You just made a statement to start this show, you're trying to make the case why, if it was so safe, why aren't people getting the booster like they were in the past? And I just answered you with a very simple statement. COVID is not as serious now, and the strand is nowhere near as serious now as it was back then. Why does that?
The vast majority of people that took the shot regret taking the shot. There was no reason.
Okay,
to
yeah.
even
Where are
take
you
the
getting
shot,
that?
Brian.
And where are you getting that from? You've polled millions of
Anecdotal.
people.
Everybody.
Anecdotal.
That I
So
talked to
so you've polled.
everybody. If you talk to people, normal people, they don't brag about taking the boosters and the shots. They regret taking it, and now
who?
they have medical
And how many
problems
people have you talked
because
to? Really? And where's your evidence of that?
The only people I know getting sick are the people that are taking the shot.
And how many
Nobody else
people?
is
How
getting
many?
sick.
So half the world is taking the shots. How many people do you know for a fact have gotten sick from the vaccines? How many people have you talked to, Patrick?
I know more people that got
How many?
hurt from the vaccine
How many?
than any.
How many? How many?
You want me to start naming them out? I mean,
No,
you
give me a number. Give me a number. How many people do you know? Hold on. Patrick.
Over 4 people my age.
You know 4
died
people.
from-
Okay, so let's go with that. Because Patrick knows 4 people that he claims, by the way, probably doesn't know their medical history and didn't see the death certificate, but because Patrick knows 4 people, so he claims, that have died from the vaccine, that means that the vaccines are dangerous and unsafe. Patrick, do you realize how ridiculous you sound?
That was the most deadly vaccine ever introduced.
Well, I
to the
know
public,
I
period.
know one MAGA person that's on the phone with me right now that might have an IQ under 40. So I guess that means every MAGA person is stupid, right? I'm just going by anecdotal evidence. I'm taking your logic, Patrick. I've had a couple MAGA callers that have called into the show today. I know 4 MAGA callers that have called into the show this week. So I'm going to go by your logic. Because I have 4 MAGA callers that called into the show this week that are imbeciles, that means every MAGA supporter must be an imbecile. Hey, Patrick, I'm just going by your logic. You know 4 people that took the vaccine, so they all must be dangerous and they're killing people.
No, I know 4 people that died.
Oh, okay. And
Not-
I know
not just
4
took-
and I know 4 imbeciles like you who don't know what they're talking about. So every MAGA supporter
Brian,
must be an imbecile.
you are filled with hate, man.
No,
You're
I'm just
Mr.
filled with
Mr.
facts.
Tolerant
I'm
is
just
you.
filled with no. I don't have tolerance for idiots like you. That's my
You're
problem,
bigot.
Patrick.
You're bigoted. You're
How am I a
bigoted on
bigot?
people that
How am I a bigot, Patrick? Explain. Let's go through this. Because I don't like you, because I think you're a moron and you spread medical misinformation. Somehow I'm a
You're
bigot.
filled
Okay.
with hate,
okay.
Brian.
You know
You're
what?
filled with hate.
And you're the same guy who voted for Donald Trump. Did you say Donald Trump is filled with hate? When he said these Mexicans, they're rapists and they're bad people, and I suppose they're good people. When Donald Trump said he didn't want black people counting his money in his casinos, he wanted Jews counting his money. Did you say that Donald Trump was filled with hate? Oh, no, wait, Patrick didn't. He voted for him
Brian,
twice.
if
Hey,
all that-
Patrick.
hey,
Hey,
Brian,
Patrick. Hey,
Brian,
Patrick.
hey,
Hey,
Brian,
Patrick.
Brian,
Hey,
hey,
Patrick.
Brian.
Hey, Patrick. Pot him down. Patrick, answer the question. Did you say Donald Trump is filled with hate? Yes or no?
No, he is
No,
not.
you didn't. No, you didn't. Okay, yeah. Okay, Patrick. What other stupid thing would you like to say today? You hypocrite.
If all that's true about him being this big racist, then why does he have more support than any Republican
Because
in
there's
modern
a lot
history?
because there's a lot of dumbasses like you. That's why.
You have fake narratives.
There's a
and
lot
nobody's
of there's a
buying
lot
it,
of there's
man.
a lot
It's
of
great.
Hey, Patrick, I know 4 people that got sick from the vaccine. So I think all the vaccine is dangerous
That
and
died.
bad.
That died
yeah,
from
you're
the
the dumbass.
vaccine,
You're
my
the
friend.
Oh, and have you seen okay, let's go with your stupidity for a moment. Do you know any one of those 4 people? Do you know their medical background, their personal physician, and did you see the death certificate? Yes or no?
Brian, come on, man.
Answer
They're-
my
they're in
question.
their mid-40s, late
Pot
30s,
him down.
and
Hey,
they
pot him
died.
down. I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to answer it yes or no. You claim you know 4 people. I would assume they're not your immediate family members. You claim 4 people have died from taking the vaccine. Of those 4 people, do you know their personal medical history, their physicians, and did you see the cause of death and death certificate? It's a yes or no answer. Answer the question.
I'm not that dense. I don't need that kind of.
So you did.
evidence
Okay,
and
so
that
pot him
kind of-
down again. So Patrick has now established he claims that his friends died from the vaccine. He doesn't know their medical history. He doesn't know any of their personal physicians. He didn't see the death certificate, proving that Patrick has absolutely no idea what he is talking about. And Patrick, when I say I have a dismay and a dislike for people like you, I mean it. And if that makes me a bigot to dislike people that spread medical misinformation, which you do, that also have zero medical experience, which you have none of, you have zero medical experience, and you make a claim without knowing anything about that individual who died, yes, I don't like people like you because you prove how ignorant you are. Every time you call into this show, Patrick, you prove how dumb you are. Go ahead,
you're filled
Patrick.
with hate, man.
Go ahead.
You're
I'm filled with
hate,
truth.
man.
No, I'm filled with facts. So
It's
Patrick,
entertaining to
let me
see
ask you a
someone so
question.
filled with hate.
Patrick, let me ask you a question now, Patrick. If I don't know, just say a friend of mine died. I don't know anything about their medical history. I don't know anything about the visits they had with personal physicians, and I haven't seen the death certificate. Do you think I have the credentials to make a claim that a vaccine killed somebody when I know nothing about their medical history? Patrick, I'm trying to reason with you. I'm trying to ask you a very respectful, logical question without calling you a name now. Okay, Patrick? Let's see if you can answer my question. If I don't know anything about that person's medical history, or I have not seen the death certificate, do you think I have the proper credentials to claim I know what killed them? Yes or no?
Oh, you absolutely not. I think you're too dense to put
Exactly.
anything together.
Okay, so you're saying that you're dense and you can't. Okay, thank you. We're on to something now, Patrick. Thank you for answering that honestly, because that's the claim I'm making about you. You're not smart enough to understand that I just gave the hypothetical and put it back on you, but you're absolutely right. You don't have the credentials to know how one of your friends died, but people like you are dumb enough to claim you do. And I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. Regardless of your 4 friends, and by the way, I would highly doubt that you even have 4 friends that could put up with your stupidity. But anyway, let's just assume that you did have 4 friends that passed away, and I'm sorry they did. For you to claim you know how they died when you don't know anything about their medical history, and for you to go on the air and make that claim is so ignorant. It's so stupid. And you say that I'm filled with hate because I call out people like you for your ignorance. No, sir, I'm not filled with hate. The person that's filled with hate is the person like you who supports the hater, the former hater-in-chief. You support Donald Trump. Let me give you an example, or a few examples, Patrick, while you're still on the line, of what real hate looks like. These people crossing the border, they're rapists. They're bad people. And I suppose some of them are good people talking about migrants crossing the border illegally. Saying he didn't want black people counting his money in his casinos. He wanted Jews counting his money. That's hate. Defending the Confederate flag, which is what Donald Trump did when NASCAR banned the Confederate flag. It was Donald Trump who attacked NASCAR. You'd have to be a person filled with hate to do that. If you want to know what hate looks like, look at the Melania Trump's, the former First Lady's mother's funeral today. They were going into a limousine, headed to Melania's mother's funeral, and the video is all over online. And Donald Trump is following Melania, and Melania Trump stops him and didn't even want him in her limo. Because Melania Trump hates the person who you still support in Donald Trump. The man of hatred and a bunch of so many insecurities that he has to wear a cake on his face every day that's orange. A man who attacks everyone and anyone who disagrees with him. He attacks women on looks. He attacks POWs. I don't respect John McCain because he was captured. He calls them losers, brave men and women in uniform, those who have lost limbs and those who have lost their lives. You see, Patrick, that's the definition of hate. Not somebody on the radio every day that calls out real bigots, calls out bigotry and sexism and racism and homophobia. I have no tolerance for people like that, and that doesn't make me a bigot. It makes me hate bigots. And I call out people like you, people who spread medical misinformation when you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. You see, Packard, there's something called a cause of death. It happens on everyone's death certificate. Not only do you not know your friend's medical history, which you've openly admitted to me on this phone call, you don't know their physicians. You don't know what health crisis they were going through at the time. You have no idea how many vaccinations they took, what vaccinations they took, how many boosters they took, and you have no idea the cause of death. But yet you just make your stupid assumption that somehow your friends must have died of the vaccine because you're brainwashed. You see, Patrick, that's not what hatred is. Hatred is the person that you still support. Tell us on the air right now, Patrick, if you're still there. Do you still support Donald Trump?
Hey, you say you call out bigotry, man. Why didn't you
still
call out
support
Carl
Donald Trump?
earlier?
Do
Hey,
you still
why didn't you
support?
call
Answer
out-
my question. I asked you a question, then I'll
Hey.
answer yours. I'll answer your question. You answer mine first.
You won't answer.
Do you still
Of course
support?
I support Trump.
Of course you do. Okay,
I
so
want
you
the
support a
border
bigot.
closed.
Gotcha.
I want a person that knows
Gotcha.
what a woman is.
You
You
want a person
I
that
do.
knows what a woman is. That's on the tops of your
Yes,
agenda.
men cannot have babies. Things like that.
And
Common
Joe,
sense. We
what
need someone
Democrat?
that can say that.
What elected official thinks that?
Hey,
I know
hey,
you think.
you say-
Potty
hey,
down
it's
again.
my turn to
Potty
ask
down
the
again. I'm going to
question.
pot him down again. I'm going to ask you another question. Can you name me a Democrat in office today that thinks a man can have a baby? Can you name me one?
Oh, I'm sure they won't come out and say that they can't.
No. You just made the claim that you want somebody in office that doesn't think if you're a man, you can have a baby. And I just asked you, because last I checked, Joe Biden is our president, can you name me one Democrat that actually believes that? And you can't name me one because you're a moron and you say things that are not true. Do you understand what a moron is? I don't want somebody in office that thinks you could be a man and have a baby. There's not one Democrat in office that thinks that, and you're a buffoon.
Okay, that's good.
No, it
that's
is
awesome.
good. Yeah,
So
it
what-
is good. Thank you. It is good.
When you call out bigotry all the time, why didn't you call out Carl, who says that black people aren't as attractive as white people? That was pretty
Actually,
out there, man. You
actually,
just kind of went with it. You didn't call him a racist or bigot. You can't say that.
Actually, Patrick, I questioned him on that to try to get context on what he meant by that. And that person who called in actually served in our military, and he has some mental difficulties. And I asked him to preface what he said.
Yeah.
So, Patrick, what have we learned
And
today?
he said,
So, Patrick, what have we learned? Patrick, I'm trying to educate you because I'm trying to come to an understanding here. Patrick, what have we learned today? We've learned that even you don't
bad.
Right.
Vaccines are really bad.
According to Patrick,
Really bad.
according to Patrick, he thinks vaccines are bad because he knows 4 friends of his that died. He doesn't know their medical history. He hasn't seen the death certificate, but he's just going on a gross assumption that they must have died from the vaccine. Patrick, that's a very intelligent take. Very intelligent.
And how many boosters have you taken, and do you continue to take them?
What's your education, Patrick?
Huh?
What's your education? I'm just curious. Did you go to college, sir?
I'm a college graduate. Thank you
Where'd
very
you go?
much.
What'd you major in? Stupidity? What'd you major in, Patrick?
Hey,
Vaccines?
I'll put my income up against yours any day.
So
my
Patrick,
man.
income doesn't
not wearing
necessarily.
the
Hey,
same
pot him
thing.
down again. See, Patrick thinks that income equates education necessarily. Hey, Patrick, there are a lot of people that are far more wealthy than you that dropped out of high school. So your point makes absolutely no sense at all. The amount of money you have doesn't necessarily equate to how smart you are or how educated you are. Okay, Patrick? Do you not understand that?
You seem to be doing
Hey,
real well
Patrick.
wearing the same
Hey,
thing to
Patrick.
work
Hey,
every
Patrick.
single
Guess
day.
what, Patrick?
Every day you work.
Hey, Patrick. Guess what? You listen to this show every day, and you call into this show every day. Nobody knows who the hell you are. You're the definition of irrelevant. But I grow on you, and you're the one that's a fan of mine. You probably pleasure yourself to a Brian Shapiro poster before you go to bed at night. You love Brian Shapiro. You call Brian Shapiro every day. You listen to Brian Shapiro every day. Nobody's listening to you. The only platform you've ever had in your life is when I give you 10 minutes of my life that I want back. Have a nice day, you right-wing buffoon. Have a nice day. It's been fun destroying you. Well, I know 4 people. Hey, I know 4 people that died of COVID. They're friends of mine. First of all, I don't think Patrick has 4 friends. Hey, Patrick, do you know their medical history, the death certificate? No, I don't know that. Oh, okay. You're very credible, Patrick. You're very credible. Scary that guy even has a college education. So he claims he does, just like he claims he has 4 friends. 702-221-7283. 702-221-SAVE. Let's go to Fernando. Fernando's next. What's up, Fernando?
Hey, Brian, that poster's probably on the ceiling, and he looks at it every night.
Oh, man,
You know what I mean?
Fernando, Patrick is very special. He's very special.
Yeah. A lot of these people don't understand that the COVID vaccine is a preventive vaccine, so you won't get worse
Exactly.
and die.
Fernando, why is it
That's-
so hard for people to understand that? It's so basic.
I have no idea, Brian. They're just out there morons, like you said, buffoons,
Hey,
crazy people.
Fernando,
They don't understand. Yes, sir.
when a caller says that he knows 4 people that died, and he claims they died from the vaccine, he doesn't know anything about their medical background or their death certificate or anything. How do you even respond to somebody like that, Fernando? What would you say to somebody like that?
I would tell them they're delusional and they're way out of this world.
Yeah.
But enjoy the show and have a great weekend. Hey,
Thanks,
guys. Take
thanks,
care.
Fernando. Good to hear from you, my friend. I appreciate it. Holy smokes, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, listen, Patrick's not alone. There are many people out there like Patrick that think the way Patrick thinks. There are a lot of people out there that assume if one of their friend dies, could be a heart attack, you name it, it must have been from the vaccine. There are people that go on the air that spread medical misinformation like Wayne Allen Root does every single day. Wayne Allen Kook, as I like to call him, who's a local host here with no listeners. And Wayne Allen Kook claims that all these professional soccer players are dropping dead from the vaccine. And he'll give anecdotal evidence not knowing of their medical history when soccer players in the past have died way before the vaccines were out, the COVID vaccination. But, you know, ladies and gentlemen, this is par for the course. It is par for the course, and medical misinformation is run rampant in our society, and it kills people. And I'm going to continue to call these people out until the cows come home. It's sad, really, and it's unfortunate. It's sad and it's unfortunate that when somebody dies in somebody's family, it's very sad, and they immediately believe they must have died from the vaccine when literally, in most cases, there's zero evidence to back up that claim. Zero. And when I call somebody out for that, I'm the bigot. I'm the one full of hatred. And meanwhile, this is the same person who continues to support Donald Trump. Folks, you can't make this stuff up. You just can't make this stuff up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's what I'm going to do. I want to give out my socials, give you a chance, an opportunity to get more involved in this show. Those of you that are watching on the Occupy Democrats Network, here's what I would ask you to do. By doing this, you're supporting Occupy. You're also supporting this show. Click on the subscription button on Occupy, on their Facebook page. In that subscription button, you're going to be asked to be paying $5 a month. That's all. A cup of coffee. And you're going to get extra content from me, yours truly. Content that you only get as a subscriber of the show, and you're supporting what I do. I would also ask you to follow me on my socials. Subscribe to my YouTube page, which is free, which is at PTL Radio Show. You could also follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you'd like to call it, at PTL Radio Show. I'm also on TikTok. And you're supporting what I do by doing that as well. And, it's interesting because we had Carmine Sabia, who is a very popular conservative in the media, and we had him on the show earlier this week, but we didn't have him on long enough because we had a power outage, like a 4-block radius here. Carmine has agreed to come back on Monday, so you're not going to want to miss that. We're also scheduled to have George Santos and Vivek Ramaswamy join us on the show next week, so you're not going to want to miss that. We got some big guests lined up next week. Trust me, I'm not going to be easy on Vivek. I'm not going to be easy on George Santos or Carmine. We go at it, and that's what we do on this show. I appreciate all of you for watching. I appreciate all the comments and the viewership. And we're going to wrap up the show now, but for the Occupy Democrats feed, for everybody watching on there, I appreciate all of you. We'll take a quick break, and we will be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.